Hello everybody, welcome to the Light-4J tutorial by Coding Muscles. This is chapter 1 where we will cover some background information about Light-4J. But if you want to step right into coding, then please feel free to skip this video and go into the next one. Just make sure that your Java and Maven path variables are set up and ready to go. So without further ado, let's start chapter number 1. So we already discussed that Light4j is a lightweight, lightning fast, low latency and high throughput framework based on Java that was created by NetworkNT, which helps us in reducing costs. So how fast is Light4j or what are its advantages? So for starters, Light4j is 44 times faster than Spring Boot. So I'll leave a link to this Medium blog down in the description below, which explains why is Light4j 44 times faster. But basically, if you go to this GitHub repository by NetworkNT slash microservices framework benchmark, you'll see that they have committed some code that tests a lot of RESTful frameworks, and then they have posted the result below in readme.md file. So if you go to the readme file, you'll notice that there's gofast-http, which is a good competitor of light4j, and others are just far behind. They are like these two are like the Messi and Ronaldo of RESTful APIs. And Spring Boot is down below, and one of the most popular framework, which is Spring Boot Tomcat, is down below, which is very pale in comparison to go fast HTTP and Light4j. So as we see by the results that has been gathered by the network entity, that the max throughput transfer was almost the same, somewhat above of 1.3 million, and the transfer size was also pretty comparable, 169 MB for Light4j and 167 MB for go fast HTTP. But the main difference is that in average latency. While Go Fast HTTP had around 100 milliseconds in latency, Light4j had a latency of only less than 2.3 milliseconds. So the all-over winner, it is safe to say that all-over winner here is Light4j. Coming back to our presentation, we covered why Light4j is 44 times faster than Spring Boot, which is a huge advantage. Also, Light4j has concepts of handlers, which makes the job of coders really easy as the coders only have to focus on the business logic and all the cross-cutting concerns are taken care by the handlers. So in a typical Spring or Spring Boot environment, the structure we have is that for each API, we have to do the authentication, payload validation, encoding, decoding, and many other stuff on our own for each of the API. Whereas that is not the case with Light4j. In Light4j, we have handlers and they can be reused for multiple services, and once defined, they are very quick to act, which leaves the job of developers only to handle business logic. As discussed before, the prerequisites for this course would be to have a good version of Java and make sure it's a JDK and not a JRE. Otherwise, you will get some errors like this. It is basically stating that you are running a JRE and not a JDK. Also, you should have a good version of Maven installed and make sure both of them are installed as your environment variables. Let me do a quick demo of my Java-version. So I have Java 19 installed and it is a JDK, not a JRE. Also, if I do a MVN-version, I get that I have Apache Maven 3.8.7 installed, which is pretty latest. Also, when trying to set these variables, your machine may or may not read it in the first go. So do restart your machine and your development environment a few times before it takes effect. So that's all for chapter 1. Thanks for watching Coding Muscles, and I'll see you in the next chapter.